Hello everybody, hello, what's up? Welcome to my channel. My name is Alex R, and you're hanging out with me here in this little studio. I hope you're doing good, I hope you're doing great. Got a cup of coffee. Check it out. Okay, in this video, I want to talk about something that's been on my mind because I went to Texas to see my family and I got really sick. I read and now I'm back in my everyday life, and behind you, I'll show you, I have a bulletin board of it's my to-do list. It's how I do my to-do list. On the right is stuff that I need to do. Then I move it to the middle, which is this is the mode I'm in, and on the left is complete. And I'm looking up at all the things I need to accomplish. And I had work this morning, and I'm doing nothing. I went on TikTok for I don't even know how long. I think I rocked in this chair. I stared over there. I'm so out of it. I don't have all the marbles are rolling around all over the floor. I can't gather them up and get myself together. I can't get myself together today. And it was making me think a lot about self-help because I am very militant with myself. I like self-help in a way where I know it's not good for me, but I do it anyway. It's almost a form of punishment. Sick. It's sick. I have a sick relationship with self-help. It's out of control. It's to an out of control level. And I like stuff that's not even for me. Maybe you've seen this type of content, but it's very, it's made for men, pretty much. It's just men being warrior men, sigma men, mental toughness, grind it out, just do it, just ignore everything. I really like that type of stuff, and I listen to it, because it helps me. It's get out of bed, do your projects. It doesn't matter if you want to do it or not. If you want the life that you want, you better put in the work, and it gets my butt on my walking pad. It gets me moving. It's sick. It's so sick. But I want to talk about self-help today. And specifically self-help and isolation, being alone. Fundamentally, this is what I believe. I'm going to tell you what I really believe is capital T, true. And that is that the brain, your brain and your personality is like a deep black pool of water, and you kind of look into it and you kind of see the glowing bodies of objects come to the surface and then go away, and you're like, what is that? What was that? Oh, my girlfriend is talking about a coworker. Jealousy. And then it goes away. Or you're like, oh, I don't like this person, and then it goes away. Or you're like, why do I feel sad? I just hung out with somebody and it went well, but why do I feel like it didn't? And it goes away. And the self and the personality is such a mystery, and the way that why we are the way we are is because we are a networked creature who is different across context and across time, even though we have the illusion of a self that is consistent, right? And I think, hold on, I'm still recovering from being sick, so it's freaky. Anyway, we have to, for certain purposes, create a fictional narrative of cohesion, and so self-help sometimes falls into this format, which is your psychology or your personality is like a blueprint, it's this machine that has parts and that you can tinker with it, right? I don't think that's true. That's not accurate. But it's a fiction that we have to work with and use just to have any chance of fixing or altering something about ourselves. So I think it's positive, but it's also inaccurate, right? So if you fail because you try and adopt somebody else's conception of a blueprint personality, it's not a real failure. It's not really true, because what you're doing is you're standing above your cauldron of like bubbling molasses, and you're like, okay, I tried getting up at 6 in the morning, and I tried having a calendar. It didn't work. I lost the calendar. I tried to eat healthy. Turns out I just really wanted a cheeseburger. Okay, what you're doing is you're seeing the way in which, like, you use self-help and you try and adopt something and it doesn't work for you. Okay, you're like a scientist. That didn't work. You need to make an adjustment to the recipe because you're learning about yourself. Right? So when you encounter a lot of self-help, the danger is in believing that it's objectively good or true, and even if you desire it, if you fail to achieve your outcome by adopting a certain routine or a certain idea, that's okay, because that tells you something about yourself in any given time, in any given context. If you gave everyone a protocol, which is like, get up at 6 a.m., go exercise, take a cold shower, make your to-do list, and then work for 4 hours. You do that every day. I think what you would see is a complete statistical scattering of data. Like, what we know is like the brain loves exercise, and the brain loves sunshine, and these things are good for you. But if you gave everyone this protocol that looks good on paper, you're not going to see steady, consistent progress. I think you would see a lot of people fall away from that, and not be able to stick to it. Because, guess what? The human brain is so incredibly complicated, and we function in a very networked way. We're in conversation with our lives, with a job, with children, pets, friends, family, people. So the straightforwardness of self-help is what can make it very attractive, but it's also what is most unreal and unattainable about it. It's the most misleading. So self-help, you gotta be careful. You gotta be really careful. It's really best to view it as a fiction that you can adopt, and by which you can compare yourself as a way to learn about yourself, and figure out what's actually going to work for you, because it's a fiction. It's not objectively true. It's a story that has certain values. So, for example, here's another way to look at that. I feel like the story of isolation, mental toughness, and kind of just growing a thicker skin and the ability to adapt. So you see it on the internet a lot, but there's a bit of a story about masculinity that's kind of very popular. And there's a story about mental toughness and drive, like, instead of playing video games all day and being lazy, go on a hike, like, be alone. Be alone with your mind and your thoughts, and develop stamina and endurance and the ability to, like, cut out the noise, right? That's an attractive fiction. and getting up at 6 in the morning, putting on your headphones and just grinding out solo is this narrative of like the warrior, the knight, whatever, and is sometimes more attractive to certain people than the idea of like, you should sleep in. Get up when your body feels ready, maybe 9, 10 in the morning, have a smoothie, like reset your nervous system, meditate. These are things that are good for people, but they're aesthetically very different, and they're very different in what they prioritize. And so they're a story that you can try and see what works and what doesn't work for you. What I feel like is maybe most dangerous is actually these self-help fictions that prioritize isolation and being alone. Being alone is highly unnatural. It's highly unnatural. And it will build mental toughness through suffering, because you will suffer. And not just your mind, but your body and your long-term health will suffer. And it's funny, like, being outcome driven too. Like, maybe you want to make more money, or you want to be productive. You want a certain lifestyle. And so you isolate, and you become very militant, and you're thinking, like, video games bad, junk food bad. What's good is, like, healthy food, going for hikes, walking, working, grinding every day. So maybe you get what you want, but you're like an obnoxious person to be around. Maybe that militancy pushes people that you care about away. Maybe you become judgmental. You learn to see video games as a waste of time, and your mind closes the door to that activity and to people who do that activity. And so maybe you get what you want, but you're like less open-minded. So was that a success? That's a self-judgment. You have to decide, like, yes, I am more productive, but I don't like that I'm a little unbalanced, or I don't like that I don't hang out with my friends as much, that type of thing. Or you say, yeah, you know what, that's right, like, playing video games is lazy. I'm right. Okay, you're on your way, right? Do your thing. But to me, it's hard to deny that any philosophy that pushes you away from people or society isn't harmful and isn't like an aberration of actual self-help. This is my hot take, but I don't think it's tough to go off and be isolated and like go for a huge long hike and then like lift weights and then come home and eat blueberries and broccoli and sit down and be in your own mental world and do your work. I think what is actually tough about that is the self-mastery component, which is, that's what's tough. The other details are not tough. Like going for a walk, okay. You're gonna go do 4 hours of studying, okay, great, that's fantastic. To me, you know what's tougher? You know what's a lot harder? Is going to a party and socializing with people who you disagree with, you don't like, who are complicated, who are giving you stimulus that's completely out of your control, and having self-mastery to be a good conversationalist, to connect with other people, to maintain your boundaries, to have any clue of how you are showing up for other people. That to me is tough. Like navigating relationships, navigating an incredibly complicated social and political world is 10 times tougher. Like keeping your head on straight, knowing who you are in like jumping into the mosh pit of life is tougher to me than exiting it and focusing on your kind of objective goals in isolation. Like, I think there's a natural punishment for isolating as a person, and I believe when I see people who are like, I'm focusing on me, and they like shun the world, I think that's indulging in parts of the self that are awkward, underdeveloped, like socially underdeveloped, which is fine, but work on that. Like, walking away from that, to me, I see some of this like lone wolf, sigma male kind of self-help is actually really indulging in the parts of the self that are underdeveloped and need work, real like work. The part of the self that's not able to integrate into the social world, which we're social animals. Like, we're social animals. We need people, and we need to help ourselves connect with other people or adapt to truly challenging environments. Definitely my hot take on self-help is that I just think sometimes taking these like really black and white philosophies and ideas to me are not that hard. What's harder is kind of adapting them to you and like staying connected to reality. That's harder, in my opinion. I was thinking too that like some of the best self-help I've ever encountered is the type that embraces complexity, like the book How to Be an Adult. That book embraces complexity. It's like you're a child when you can't handle social or interpersonal complexity, and you're an adult when you can properly hold others accountable, hold yourself accountable, and navigate life socially in a way that has a little more dignity and control over your emotions and your reactions. So that's great. That's perfect. And then to me, any self-help that doesn't encourage you to do that and encourages you to have black and white thinking, not be in touch with your emotions, and completely isolate from others, and maybe even cut off parts of yourself, and go into some weird cryo chamber of pain in order to come out the other side, I think it's just an absolute fiction. It makes no sense, and it actually moves you further away from humanity. And so yeah, maybe you learn to suffer more, or maybe you get a six-pack like you're in the gym. Maybe it actually gets you closer to your goals, but also at the same time, I think it makes highly neurotic personalities, actually highly neurotic personalities, who have to have very controlled environments and routines in order to feel comfortable. And these are people who don't completely adapt well to your more everyday, highly complicated, loaded social interactions of like, what do you do when you have to be with your partner's family for 2 weeks in a row? What are you going to do? Like, how are you going to handle that? How would you handle confrontation or all that kind of stuff? So I think self-help as a field is like littered with rotten apples that you have to navigate around, because the best self-help moves you closer to stability in conditions that you don't have control over, and moves you closer to having a sense of self that's able to maintain social relationships and able to regulate your emotions as you encounter stimulus from the outside world. So I think the best self-help connects you, and the worst self-help disengages you, like radically disengages you, and I don't think it's healthy. That's my take. I should also say, if a self-help ideology disengages you from wider society and orients you exclusively towards one type of person, so you're only going to associate and draw inspiration from one type of human being, that is not self-help. That's like a cult, a weird dogmatic religion, or just absolutely radically destructive to the fabric of society. And I do see that more and more of these like groups that form on the basis of liberating an individual and like strengthening the individual, but it's like, but only this certain type of person. And I do see this a lot with men, where it's like, oh man, I watched some younger guys in my life not be able to adapt to complexity and not be able to handle encountering other people. And so they turn to these really strange, narrow, dogmatic ways of thinking about like men and women, and then they become oriented only socially to like other men who are similar, and they end up becoming highly neurotic, and it just feeds their inability to adapt. And then you're in like not a self-help track, you're in like a radicalization track, and it's really sticky. So I just think, like, as a basic rule, anything that's pulling you away from other people's real complexity and explaining it away and then just indulging in your isolation is not good. It's just not, it's objectively not okay. I will say though that self-help as a genre, I still love it, because for as much as I see all the way on the radical side, I see a lot of really positive things, and I've read a lot of books that have helped me just really have new tools to think about in my own life and kind of be able to move me forward. And I will also say self-help paired with reading fiction and reading history is an amazing combination. And self-help with other people is really important. Like, I will say I have a secure partner, like a very safe partner, and that has helped me become more stable and in touch with my emotions. And like, if you've got a good friend who's just a solid communicator, who can kind of help hold you accountable and like listen to you, and you can talk through things, it's really great. So self-help, not in isolation, in conversation with other people, your social circle, with fiction books and history books, like nonfiction, is kind of an incredible combination that keeps things balanced, for sure. I think at the end of the day, like, balance is the name of the game. Like, everything in moderation is totally true, is totally real. That was my rant about self-help. It's something I've been thinking about for a little bit. And today, yeah, I'm just not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I haven't worked out at all. I've had almost no water. Like everything I'm not supposed to be doing, but it's also whatever, you know? You gotta have ups and downs. You gotta have a natural flow of things, right? So, anyway, I was just thinking about that. I thought I would share. Yes. I hope that you're having a really good day or a really good night wherever you are. I am excited to be back to making videos. Yeah. I'm officially done being sick for the next 2 years. I absolutely refuse it. So that was it for me. And now I'm back to health, and I look forward to making more videos in the future. But that's it for this one. I will see you later, and hope that you